and running and getting started here. Thank you for joining us to hear about the fall camp idea and our crazy fall camp idea here that we're working on getting up and running. We are very excited about this. We've had an unbelievable summer and cannot believe, we say at camp all the time, there's plenty of camping left. There's plenty of camping left. And so there still is plenty of camping left, but we cannot believe that we are only a few days away from the end of our summer session. It's been an amazing 7 weeks, and it has been so great to see the boys so happy and relaxed all summer long, and to be able to have this experience with everything that is going on in the world. So we're joined here by a few people. We've got Dan and Robin. They're right here, but on a separate screen was the easiest way we could figure out to do this. So they'll be here taking your questions, and then Brian Glickman is here. Glick, you wanna turn on your video? He's also there. You can see him there. Glick, give a wave. There you go. Brian was one of my cabin mates here at camp and has been here doing a wonderful job helping us run this summer, and has been a big part of getting fall camp up and running. So we're gonna get right into it and get started here. We have the chat is active, but the chat is not the best place to use for your questions. What we really want you to do is type any questions where it says Q&A, and we will be monitoring the Q&A, doing our best to answer questions in both a written format as well as verbally where we can. I've got an outline of things that I want to go through right from the start and just go over those. And then from there, we just intend on taking as many questions as everyone has to try and get through them.
Should we have them hold their questions until we get through our script? I
think that makes sense. I think we've got probably 20 to 30 minutes of information that we think everyone will want to know. And then from there we'll take the questions. That'll make the most sense. If we're talking about a topic and you think we missed something, by all means, please go ahead and send in your questions from there. So why are we doing this? Well, in the middle of this pandemic, as we've navigated through this over the past now really 6 months, we need to support our boys socially and emotionally. And obviously there's a ton of academic concerns taking place with school time and making sure that school is running as close to on schedule as it can, even when it's remote. But our expertise here at camp and our concerns focus on social and emotional growth, and we know that kids need to play, that they need to be outside, that they need to be engaged, and that they need to have peer and near peer socialization to continue their development. And that's really why we wanted to do this. So many parents would say to us all the time, oh, you should keep them all year, and wouldn't it be great if you guys had a school? And so we took that to heart and said, you know what, this is the time to do this. With everything going on in the world, this feels like the time, and it's been a huge motivating factor for us to work to make this happen for the fall for these boys. So we are looking at a 7-week session, again, same as the summer, and that would run from September 5th to October 25th. So the Saturday before Labor Day through the Saturday before Halloween. And the reason that we picked those dates was, one, because of getting right up here at the start while everything is especially uncertain. 2 is weather. And the 7-week idea, the reason we were going with 7 weeks is because we know that it's going to take time to get in routine, and also camp is going to be falling behind academics. And so in order to have a full camp experience and really do as many of the things as we want to be able to do, we really think we need that time to do that. And we want to also give kids as much opportunity to be with their friends and with their peers as is possible, as we don't know what will unfold this fall with that. This is primarily for grades 5, boys starting grades 5 through 10. And that's our primary audience for this. We do have some limited availability for kids starting 3rd and 4th grade. Primarily those will just be for the kids who are existing North Star families, ready for that, to make that transition easier. But we really want this to be for so for self-directed and self-guided learners, and those come in all shapes and sizes at all ages. But we want to make sure that that we're setting everybody up for success. And so trending a little older than we do during the summer seemed to be part of that. Who's going to be here? We're going to have many campers that are here right now are so excited to do this, and we get questions every day from the campers about whether they can come, and asking about all of the excitement of fall camp. And then many of our campers who missed this summer are very interested, and we've had a few of those already registered. But we're also very different from our normal summer. We're encouraging people to come with their friends from home as well. One of our big motivating factors for putting this whole program together is the idea that these boys are missing out on their social time with their friends. And so at camp over the summer, we love the fact that we have kids from all over the country and all over the world, and that they're making friends from different places, and that we limit the cabins to 2 boys from a school and a cabin. But this actually is a great opportunity for boys who would otherwise be hanging out together all fall, and won't be able to have that opportunity if they're stuck at home, to actually recapture that and have those opportunities to socialize together. So we are really encouraging that as well. From a staff perspective, Robin, Dan, and I are going to be here overseeing this for the fall. Robin will really, as a former educator, she's going to sort of oversee the education side of things, whereas Dan will continue to be our czar of logistics and our operations director, and make camp run. And so we're really excited to get working on this. A huge percentage of our leadership team is still going to be here. Some of our village directors, Glick, Kyle, our adventure director, AK, our trip director, are all going to be here as well, and are committed to staying. Our health staff, we have great continuity. Nurse Terry and Nurse Ray are both going to be here still overseeing it. Overseeing our health center. We still have 12, we have 12 veteran counselors already committed, and that number only keeps growing. I don't know, for those of you who saw on the list, we've got guys who are going to be taking class at universities like Wisconsin and USC and Duke and Stanford and Claremont McKenna and Pitzer. It's a pretty impressive group of students, and we're going to have some who are student counselors, and some who are professional counselors, so their only job is to be counselors, and some are going to be splitting their time as well between class and counseling. And then we've also, the outdoor industry has been hit very hard by the pandemic. There's an estimated 40,000 outdoor educators out of work right now, and we've had an amazing response from the outdoor education community, former educators, young teachers, a licensed therapist that we've already hired for the summer, people who like working in the outdoor setting with kids. So we've got great new hires coming our way to fill in from the spots that aren't already here. So that's who's going to be here. Now we're going to just talk a little bit about how it's going to work. And I think one of the most important pieces is to understand that the model of this fall camp experience is that it's school first, and it's their education first. And so our idea is to build camp around their schooling. And so we're going to fill in the gaps that in the spring, when you went to remote schooling, that Netflix and video games were filling in. And so when they're done, and when they're done with their school day, rather than defaulting to TV or boredom, we're going to get them out and get them active and engaged and hanging out with their friends. They're going to have opportunities to do our whole range of camp activities. They're going to have opportunities for instructional climbing and archery and riflery. We're going to be in the water until it's too cold to be in the water anymore. We are going to really do everything we can to build that camp experience around their schooling, but the schooling is going to come first. And so I think most of the questions are going to be focused on the school aspect, and so I do want to start there. Basically, what we're thinking is that we will support them academically to the same level that you as parents would support them at home. And so that is, you're not doing the homework for them, you're not writing the essay for them, but you are going to make sure they're doing it. And if they have a question, you're going to answer it. So, that is the way that we view our role. The counselors, every cabin will have at least one of the professional counselors who's overseeing that academic workload, and the student counselors will help with that as well. And then we're going to have education coordinators who are out of cabin staff who are also helping to oversee that. And most of them will have, those folks will all have education experience. And their job is to support our fall campers with their schooling. But at the end of the day, we ultimately know that the teachers at their schools, at their home schools, are the ones that are best suited to offer the academic support. And so actually not just teachers, but also tutors or counselors or any other at-home services that they're working with. And the same goes for extracurriculars that we'll work to facilitate. Our bell is ringing to transition us here into fourth period. So I'll try not to say anything too important while the bell rings, because I know sometimes that's hard to hear. All right, so our staff are going to work to keep everybody on task for sure. And what they're going to use along to do that is every weekend, we're going to ask each parent, each set of parents to submit a form that says the weekly class times and meeting times that the boys need to be present at live online. So I know a lot of schools are calling this synchronous versus asynchronous learning. So any of the synchronous learning times, whether that's a meeting, whether that's a class with a teacher, a meeting with somebody, anytime that they have to be in front of their computer, you're going to let us know that for the week, and we're going to make sure that the boys are there. And then you're going to submit almost a syllabus of sorts that says all of the assignments that need to be completed that week. And our counselors and our education coordinators will use that in order to hold the boys accountable to getting their work done. And that will allow us, that's the system that's going to allow us to support them for school and simultaneously to still, what we're going to own best is making sure that they're doing their work and also making sure that they're having the social, emotional, developmental experiences and fun that they're looking to have. So just to touch briefly on our COVID plans and how this will work. I know most of you listening were here for the summer and know the concept, but it's going to be very much the same. We've learned some good lessons that we've worked to implement over the course of the summer, and we'll continue to implement what we've learned. But I do want to walk through quickly what that looks like. And just like with the summer, everything about this is a yellow light until we're here, and even when we're here. I think that one of the most important principles is to acknowledge that we have to read and react all of the latest data and science, and continue to consult with our medical advisors who have allowed us to be so successful in planning this out. And so we will continue to do that, and we are watching very closely local trends. We're watching the latest research. We're watching the latest medicine to make sure that this is a smart thing to do, and that this again is that we feel that we can safely care for your children and provide them with a wonderful experience, because we won't take them if we feel that the circumstances have changed in a way that we don't feel comfortable with that. We will not hesitate to call this off and to tell you to keep your kids at home if we believe that is the best decision, and we're constantly working on that. So just to give a real quick overview of our COVID plan. First of all, it starts with the idea that camp is a bubble. It's not a perfect bubble, but it's a pretty good bubble. We're out here on a 110-acre peninsula with one road in, and it's just a long driveway. We are able to really preserve a bubble in a pretty unique way that many organizations and communities can't. And so that's been a huge key to our success so far, and it's a really important part. As part of this, before entering the bubble at our fall camp, we're going to again ask that everyone quarantines ahead of time and practices social distancing and masking procedures in a really meaningful way to do everything we can to keep COVID-19 out of camp and off campus. And so that will be 2 weeks beforehand for sure. And then there will be a test, again, a PCR test beforehand, which you can have mailed to your house or you can get in your community. And we'll go through the testing protocols as we get into this. But we've got great testing partners that we've been working with throughout the summer to support that. And then after a test, which would be 3 to 6 days prior to arrival, we ask that it's a complete household quarantine, that the kids aren't interacting with anybody outside of their household prior to traveling to camp.
Andy, will you address actually really quickly a question that kind of fits in here, is the fact that our current campers will be coming home, that they're not staying here after, from August 14th to September.
Yeah, absolutely. So camp ends, our summer session ends this Friday, August 14th. And so, yeah, the current campers will go home on Friday, and then we'll come back on Saturday, September 5th. And so during that time, there is a 1-week period where our current boys will be outside of the quarantine period, but inside of, outside of the quarantine period still. And so that's the best time to go see grandparents, family, friends, before then really making sure that you're taking the precautions to protect camp on the way back in. So then on day 5 of everybody being here, we will have another PCR test on day 5, and then on day 14 we will test again as well. And then after we've cleared the 2 weeks, that is when we will loosen up our cohorting. So the first 2 weeks, we did a cabin quarantine over the summer. For fall camp, that will be by grade. And so the grades will have a cohort, and we're anticipating about eight camper cabins with 2 or 3 counselors in a grade, and hopefully 2 cabins per grade is what we're looking at. So those cohorts would be about 15 to 20 people in a cohort. And then after we clear the 2 weeks, those cohorts, those pods will be expanded as protocols allow, and again we'll be monitoring current trends and what's happening in education to make the best decision on those sizes. But at camp, we've gone to villages. And so those are groups of 50 or 50-ish campers together in one pod.
Yeah. We have a good question too about quarantining and just prior to leading up to the fall camp session, that the question is kind of different than summer. We may have campers, boys who are coming up here, but whose siblings still may be going to school before they depart. Should we expect to quarantine them from each other, or is there another option to make it work before the boys would come up to camp?
So we know that in a household, certainly you're going to have to interact with the people within your household. But certainly if anybody is going to work or to school in the household prior, we definitely want them to be masked and really wearing an N95 or a respirator mask to make sure that their airflow is protected, and just doing a really good job of social distancing, masking, and protecting yourself wherever possible. I think that leads actually really well into the next thing I want to talk about, which is just to give you sort of the most basic overview of our at-camp procedures. And so these pods that we have are these individual groups at camp. They started as the cabin, and now they're the villages once we cleared the testing protocols. But what we're using is sort of a threefold approach. And basically it means you want to be, at any time, you want to be at least 2 of 3. Outdoors, outside, masked, and distant from each other. And so anytime that you can be 2 of 3 of those things, you're doing a really good job of protecting yourself and others from transmission of COVID-19. So outside, masked, and distanced. 3 of 3 is great. 2 of 3 is more than enough. 1 of 3 is where you start to, there starts to be some inherent risk. And so we work to be 2 of 3 at all times. That's why we have these buffs have really been the way to go this summer. They're not perfect respirator masks if you're in an indoor situation all the time. If we were inside, if I was going to a school or an office, I would not recommend the buff because it is not the best air filtration system. But at camp, where we're outside 90+% of the day, this is perfect because you can have it around your neck, and then when you're within 6 feet of somebody outside of your pod, it's easy to pull up, and it's really easy for the kids to remember and not lose because it's around their neck all the time. We've actually had a really great experience with the masking over the summer. I think it's worth pointing out that the kids have done a really fantastic job adjusting to it, and I think in many ways the kids have been easier to adjust to it than the adults. They're just more flexible in terms of behavior modification. And the buffs have really worked well, because then they're with them all the time. We can make sure that they have them. And so it has been a great solution at camp. And then our other little motto that we use at camp that keeps it simple and applies everywhere is you sanitize in and you sanitize out. And that means your hands and the equipment. And so we have hand sanitizer everywhere. We've added hand washing sinks around camp. And so whether it's an activity or a meal, you sanitize in, you sanitize out, and it's just a good way to remember that we're taking those sanitation things seriously. So that's a real basic overview of a COVID playbook that we've worked very hard on. I want to touch on a few other things before we open it up to questions. And so one is that the camp will be different. This is not going to be the same frenetic, energetic, everyday, packed with fun pace that we run at during the summer, because they have to do their schoolwork first. Our goal is to fill in the gaps. And so as soon as they're done with work, the breaks between classes, to fill those in with opportunities to be outside, to be with friends, to be engaged, to be active, and to be supported by the camp community. And that slower pace, it will be. I think it'll be fun for us. We might be a little confused about why we're not, keeping these guys going at 100 miles an hour. But I think it certainly beats not having the opportunity to do this. And I'll continue with my same joke that I made all spring, is it certainly, to me, beats playing Fortnite in the basement for all those remaining hours. A couple of logistical things that I think are worth talking through. I know that we're going to have schedules of all kinds. We have kids already enrolled from the East Coast, the West Coast, and from all 4 time zones, from Mountain Time and from Central Time. And so we know that the schedules are going to be different. And we've designed a day that is going to allow the boys to focus on school in the mornings and then get out into the camp activities in the afternoons and evenings. And that's really the idea. Our West Coasters will ask that they do some of their homework before school starts, rather than leaving it all until later in the afternoon, so that they can play at the same time. We're going to have an earlier start at camp than we usually do. A normal day, breakfast starts at 8:30 here during the summer. We're going to be about an hour earlier than that. We'll probably be having breakfast around 7:30, which is obviously a lot similar to what many of you guys are used to for a normal school day. Breakfast and lunch are going to be very grab and go, so that the boys can take what they need. They're going to be able to pack out snacks at breakfast and lunch we'll have snacks provided that they can throw in their backpacks and take with them, so that they are well snacked throughout the day, so that they have what they need in terms of snacks to give them energy to stay focused on their schoolwork. And they're going to be living in the cabins. For those of you who've been to camp, we have 3 villages: junior, intermediate, and then senior is further down the road. We're only going to use our junior and intermediate cabins for housing, and then our senior cabins are going to become classrooms for them to work out of. And those will have tables and chairs, and will just be a nice indoor space where they can sit and do that. We're going to encourage them to be at the picnic tables and in Adirondack chairs and in Crazy Creeks, wherever they're most comfortable to learn, and whatever their teacher says is permissible. But we will encourage that and set that up. Everybody's worried about the Wi-Fi, and frankly, our Wi-Fi at camp, the land Wi-Fi DSL that comes in, is not good enough to support this. And so what we need to make this work are hotspots. Hotspots are basically using your cell phone or a similar device, a cellular connected device, to transmit internet connectivity from the cell towers to your computer or your iPad. Both Dan's computer and my computer are on hotspots right now, and so hopefully you're seeing that the quality is good enough to handle Zooms. We're doing this whole thing through that, and it's been working. We've been testing them for the last couple of weeks. We're using the Google Fi hotspots. We plugged them into some older iPhones that different people had laying around, and that works. And so they connect just like my computer is connected just like it's Wi-Fi to this phone that is connected to the cell tower. And we've tested it all over camp. There's great reception all over camp. Please don't tell the kids this, because it's going to ruin our whole idea that there's no cell phone service at camp. But it's only through a few companies. It's Google Fi, it's T-Mobile, and it's Sprint. And those are the only ones that are working on this. And Google Fi for sure has a month-to-month that you can use just for the 2 months while the boys are at camp, and then cancel it after that. Another one of the big questions that I know is on people's mind is the weather. What's the weather going to be like? So September and October are, frankly, some of my favorite times to come up here. Robin and Dan have done a bunch of fall trips with me at this point, but they know that as soon as I go home in a normal summer, I am constantly chomping to get back up here for fall colors. We have some amazing weeks in September and October where it is 75 and sunny for the whole week, and then we have times where it's a little more dreary and closer to 60-degree days. The average temperatures late in October are about 60 during the day, and then it does get down to the 30s at night. And so it's going to be a little bit colder. We are putting solid doors on the cabins, and we're going to have space heaters, radiant style heaters in all the cabins to keep the temperatures up at night. We'll keep a fire going in the lodge fireplace. We'll sit around the campfire as much as we can. It's not going to be summer weather, but we're doing it at this time because we anticipate that it will still be warm enough to be outside, having a great time, and taking advantage of everything that the Northwoods has to offer. So that is everything that I had right away on my agenda. There's more information on the website at northstarcamp.com/fallcamp. But at this point, we'd ask that you definitely go ahead and start putting questions in the Q&A. And I see some of them here, and I'll ask maybe Dan and Robin to start taking a few of them here.
The first one we've gotten from a couple people is just a date when you need a final commitment, or a date when you need to know that their kids are interested in attending.
So this has been one of the hardest things about our communication so far, is giving you guys a good answer on this one. And the reality is, we'd love those commitments now. We're trying to get this together, and yet we know that for many of you on the call, you haven't seen your children in 6 weeks. They've been with us, and so it's hard to make that call. We know that in some ways that this is going to come together at the last minute. We have our first 20 registrations in, but we are going to start opening this up wider. So to families outside of the current North Star families. And so I guess what I'd say is the sooner the better. If you think you're 90% sure or 95% sure, and you just need a few more things to fall into place, we'd ask that you just go ahead and register at this point, because we do think that we're close, and we don't want you to lose your spot. But if you have questions, let us know. We can talk those through. I know many people have been in touch with their kids to talk about fall camp, and we're happy to continue to facilitate that. But really, the kids are going to be back on Friday, and then within the next couple of days, we'll be really wanting to make sure that we get this all done within the 2-week window, so that we have at least 2 weeks to get everybody prepped and ready for camp.
Another question about just, will you provide an equipment or clothing list for the fall to
Yep.
do packing?
Yep. So the packing will be a little bit different. It'll be much like our summer packing list, just with some warmer clothes and warmer blankets, and then some technology needs. So we've already added to that every boy should bring their own cell phone /hotspot. Most cell phones are hotspots. Some you can get a hotspot on your own. Some schools provide computers, but every boy will need to have their own computer. We're not going to be providing any of the technology. So computers, tablets, whatever it is that they need in order to complete their schooling. And then, it could snow once or twice. We're not going to be skiing. The lake's not going to be freezing, but we want them to have good winter gear. Because if it snows, if it snows enough to go sledding and have snowball fights, we're going to want to do that. It's still camp. And so we're not going to want to hide them inside. We're going to want to really take advantage of those things. So those will be on the packing list that we will provide. What else?
We've got a couple of just technology questions, talking about kind of when technology is going to be allowed and permitted kind of after school. Will people be able to touch base with their friends, talking about even lessons such as piano lessons doing remotely? Kind of talk a little bit about just what our technology and policies around that will be like.
Great. So they are going to have their phones, and they're going to have the opportunity to communicate not only with their parents but with their other friends and family, and we think that's important. This is different from a summer at camp, where we really want them here, completely and totally focused here. We know that they're doing this at the expense or in what should have been the time that they would be in school, and so we want to facilitate that they continue to keep those connections alive. So they will have that. Their screen time. The screen time rules are to me are pretty simple. Whenever they're doing camp activities, they should not be on their phones. And so if they're going to be engaged in a camp activity, we want them phone free, screen free doing that. When they go we're going to have lights out times in the cabin. There'll be a little bit of flexibility for particularly our high school kids who need to be finishing up their work and sometimes do stay up a little later. But when it's lights out time, they're not going to continue to be on their phones overnight to make sure that they're getting enough sleep, that they're not staying up just chatting or on social media or playing video games or watching TV shows. So that's going to be a big piece of that. But there will be time to FaceTime friends and family, and we do think that is important.
Just another kind of talking about technology before we move away from that, kind of, has there been any testing of 80 users or more than a couple hotspots all at one time?
So we don't have that many users. We don't have 80 users, but it's off of the cell phone tower. And so I talked to one of the local cell phone companies or internet providers, and they said, yeah, that won't be a problem for that many. They said you only run into problems in those kinds of environments where there's a lot of users off of a cell phone tower. If you're talking about like a stadium, if you're at a sporting event and then everybody's overcrowded there. What else? I see
a couple of travel questions.
Yeah. So we're anticipating that we'll do travel the same way we did for the summer, where we will provide a transportation option through Chicago, where we'll do cohort the vans in the pods, and then dropping off at camp is also a great option as well. So we'll be using that same system that we used, and it worked great for us in the fall, and so we'll continue with that. It was too hard to do the Minneapolis airport pickup without and the Chicago and a Chicago pickup without mixing cohorts together, and so we found that Minneapolis has a nice airport with a lot of direct flights, but certainly the easiest place to fly into is Chicago, and that allowed for the least amount of time for families that had to travel that way through an airport.
How many kids do we need in order to make this happen? A minimum, a maximum, and what we're going for?
Yeah, so our minimum number that we're looking at is 50. And again, we already have our first 20 in, and we have a lot more who are very interested, say they're in, haven't registered. So I do anticipate that we're going to get there pretty soon. I don't really think we want to be much over 100. A normal summer, we run at about 185 to 190 kids. This is meant to be smaller. And more because of what we think the feel of the fall camp should be than COVID protocols. So COVID protocols have so far worked great with in the 170s with campers. But yeah, for the fall camp, our perfect number is somewhere between 75 and 100 campers.
Andy, will you read Micah Lonigan Rosenblum's question?
Yes, I see. If there's a Bears-Packer game, will it be safe to root for the Bears, and will they be able to watch? So it is never safe to root for the Chicago Bears under any circumstances, but we will facilitate watching that. So and frankly, as a Packer fan, I've learned that it's not safe to root for the Packers at Soldier Field because Bears fans tend to be so hostile. But that's the best I can answer that question. Sorry, Micah. We will be able to watch football. We're talking about a big tailgate party, that we can set up for the boys who are looking to do that. But the other piece is, we don't want Saturdays and Sundays to be completely monopolized watching TV when they can be out camping, doing amazing activities outdoors in the Northwoods too. So we will certainly facilitate it, and we will make sure to keep them up to date on whatever sports there happen to be. Hearing what little baseball news we're hearing, I can't say I'm that optimistic about football season. So,
couple of questions, just technology related. Will phones be taken away at certain times during lights out? How will we monitor kind of those tech-free times?
We are envisioning a charging area in every cabin that that the phones go into at that time. So we don't want it to be a constantly taking back and putting away. We want the boys to really be self-directed in this. But yeah, we are anticipating putting those away so that they are not sitting next to their bed being checked all night, having that be an issue. Yeah, and really, the computers, I can't imagine that the kids are going to want to walk around with their computers or tablets. They're going to want to be, the whole point that they're going to want to be here for is to get out and do their favorite camp activities. Which does, as I see, hopefully will include some overnight camping trips. There's some amazing areas to explore. We certainly won't be able to do that during the week as much, but we'll have day trips and maybe some weekend trips for the boys who want to do that. I think some of the sites that we see will even be more beautiful with fall colors up here in northern Wisconsin.
And on that subject, like, what do you anticipate? What do we envision the kids doing on the weekends?
Yeah, I mean, the weekends are going to be camp. Obviously, the boys will still have some homework. Some of the boys will have some homework to do. But I can only speak to, I can speak a little bit to my experience with remote schooling through Lainey's experience. And when the work, there was not as much work. There was not as much work. There was a lot more free time to fill. And well, I believe that we are going to see schools more organized here in the fall than they were in the spring, ready for remote learning. I still think that there will be much more free time than they're used to having during a normal school day. And so by the time we get to a weekend, we're going to want to have it be a full weekend of camp from Friday to Sunday with activities and special events and camping trips. We're going to fill it with as many of our favorite things. And we're going to give the boys a lot of agency too, to direct us on what it is that they want to do. And we'll go with that from there.
Is there a way to see who else is registered already?
So right now, the best way to do it is just ask. If you send me a message, I can let everybody know sort of by grade, or if there's specific friends that they want to ask about. We're going to get the birthday contact list out here pretty shortly via email, and that will allow you to be in touch with any of the other kids' families that are here that are some of your son's friends.
Important question about water skiing during school days.
It's a great question. We definitely want to be water skiing as much as possible. We're going to order some wetsuits to let the boys water ski as late into the season as possible. I have personally skied as early as April and as late as late October, and so I would definitely advise the boys to take advantage of that. I think that filters into another question that we should answer is some of the boys' schedules aren't straight through. Sometimes the boys might have something to do in the morning and something to do in the afternoon, breaks in the day, and we're absolutely going to facilitate time for them to say go water skiing from 12 to 1, if that's fitting into their school break.
Good. Specific question about just types of learners and kids that we're talking about. You had mentioned that this was for kids who are self-directed and self-motivated learners. What about kids who are less motivated to do all of that on their own?
So that's a great conversation to certainly start having ahead of time, right? It is not a position we want to put the counselors in to be having to beg and plead about doing their work, right? We need the understanding here to be, you get to go to fall camp because you're going to do your work, and then you get to do your fall camp activities. And so if your son can live up to that expectation, that is where we want to be. Now, if you don't believe that your son can do that, even if he says he's going to do that, that's a conversation we should definitely have before registering. So, let's use the baseline level is if you say to your son, I need you need to be at class in front of your computer from 10 to 11, and you tell him that give him a 5-minute warning at 9:55. Can you walk away and trust that he'll have been in class until 11? So we are going to be overseeing it, but I think you need to be able to say yes to that question to feel comfortable sending your child to fall camp.
We've got a couple of questions about the focus on 5th to the 10th grade versus, you know, younger kids. And so, you know, as well as, you know, where's the other question on here? Just about younger kids, like what younger kids are we allowing? Like if it's a 4th grade kid, what are kind of your parameters as far as that goes?
Great. So I think certainly younger kids that have been with us before will have no problem making the transition. I think any younger kids than current 5th graders, we would want to have a real conversation about, one, their own motivation to be here, because we would absolutely want them to be really begging to have this experience. 2, how well they make adjustments into new environments and to new friends. I think that's really important. If they have experience going away to a camp before, I think that would really help as well. And the other consideration is if they're coming with an existing friend, that they have a built-in support system. So I'm always open to a conversation. You know, I think it's important, particularly as we're navigating this situation all for the first time together, that we work together to figure it out. But that guideline is put in place with the same idea that we put in all our guidelines. We want to set up the boys for success, and so we don't want to put them in a position where they come to camp and aren't ready to make this transition during the fall. And so that is what we're thinking.
Any idea of what percentage of campers we can anticipate just being brand new to North Star in the fall? Brand
new to North Star? No, you know, I don't know the answer to that. I would guess, I would love for this to all be our current families, for sure. I would love to keep all of our boys here. I'm not ready to let them go back into the real world. But I do think it will be we have had a lot of interest from the outside. And so I think that depends on just the interest level of our current families.
What about communication with their parents? Will the parents be able to check in with them? How will that communication piece happen?
No, we anticipate them talking to you as often as both of you guys would like, parents and kids. I'm anticipating that every day, you know, you'll at least be sending a message with them, checking in on what's going on. But we do want you to know that you can trust that anything that goes on that weekly form in terms of class time and assignments that need to get done is going to get done. And so you don't have to constantly pester them about that. We're going to take care of that.
What about like scheduling things besides school? Like someone asked about piano lessons, you know, other things like that.
Yeah, we are definitely going to support extracurriculars as well. Anything that we can do to help give these guys as close to normal of a fall as they could possibly have. And so if it's something you would want them to do if they were at home remotely, we will work to do that at camp remotely as well. We've had boys talking about chess lessons, piano lessons, other tutoring appointments, bar mitzvah lessons, all sorts of different music classes. All of those things we're absolutely happy to facilitate remotely. If it shows up on that weekly schedule, we're going to make it happen. I see a technical question about how you pair the services. So the Google Fi for the hotspot, it's literally just a SIM card. So in your phone, there's a small SIM card that gives its phone number, and that's what talks to the cell towers. That's what your phone uses to talk to the cell tower. So it's not through any existing service. It's through an actual device. So you can use Google Fi service to do this, Sprint service to do this, or T-Mobile service to do this. If you go to google.com/Fi, it shows you exactly how it works. So that's a technical question. And then did I see another technical question? I thought I saw one more technical question on there. I lost it. I see a question about instruments. We do have guitars here for the boys to play, and we have keyboards as well, and a trumpet and a drum set. But we will not be tutoring on those necessarily.
Recorder, kazoos,
kazoos, all sorts of a cowbell.
Got some little jingle bells for our winter camp for caroling across the lake. Okay, I have a question about kids interacting with older students, particularly after the quarantine. Just want to kind of explain just what that looks like, kids interacting basically outside of pods?
Yeah, and so to be clear, the cohorting is just the people you're interacting with without those protocols in. So our boys are interacting tons with one another as long as they're 2 of 3 outside, masked, and distance. So we've had tons of all camp games, even dodgeball games, or we played this human foosball game where everybody had to stay inside their own zone, but they were still playing with one another. And so if you're outside, masked, and distance, if you're keeping 2 of those 3 up, there's lots of normal interactions that people are having across age group. And so at first, I think as you get used to this, it looks a little strange to be, masked up and outside to have those conversations. But if your mask is up and you're outside, yeah, you can absolutely have that interaction. Or if you're outside in distance, you can have a great chat with somebody in an Adirondack chair 6 feet apart. That's how I've been holding most of my meetings, is either masked and outside or outside and distant, because I think that's been the better way to do it. Indoor transmission is much higher, is happening at much higher rates than anything outdoor. So yeah, we've been lucky to have lots of very normal interactions. They just have a mask on and they're outside, and camp obviously is outside.
Question about them chatting with their kids about fall camp, including if they already have chatted with them and would like to chat again.
Yeah, so assuming that means that they're here, of course. This is a big decision, and so we do want you to be able to talk to your son about it and make sure that you guys have considered it. Also, feel free to do that. I see another question about the $500 deposit and what does that mean. So I know a lot of the schools are trying to figure out what school is going to look like still, and I'm sure that is as frustrating for you as it has been for me as parent, and wondering what any of this means and not having clear answers yet. My understanding is that almost all of these schools are going to be offering a remote option, that even if they're going back with hybrid or in-person models, that there is going to be an option to be fully remote. And so what I'm saying is that so long as that there is a remote option, the people I want to register are the people that say, so long as there is a remote option that the boys can do from camp, we will take it. And so that's what I would use your level of commitment is. If they say, nope, you have to be in person, fine, totally understand. We'll get you that refund right away. No questions asked. That obviously makes a lot of sense. But if there is a remote option, even if there's also a hybrid option, we want you to be willing to take it. That's the point at which you want them to register. I see another question about homework help. Absolutely. That's, we're going to do everything we can to, again, offer the same level of support as you do at home with all these really bright young college students that are much closer to their schooling than the rest of us. I imagine that if it's anything like how it is in my house, they're going to do a better job of answering your kids' academic questions than I do. And then again, we're going to have a bunch of educators around who while they're not going to be responsible for your son's academic progress, they are going to be there to help aid in. But they're not taking the place of the teacher. It's just another resource to help support them. We are absolutely committed to continuing our scholarship program and making this work. I know that we are living in a very financially stressful world right now, and that nobody has not been affected by that, and we are certainly aware of it. And I do not want finances to be anyone's swaying factor here. And so if you want to make this happen for your son, please reach out. It is much more important that we're able to give the boys these experiences, and we'll figure the rest out. In a time like this, I think that is a really good guiding principle for all of us, that we should be taking care of each other and doing what's right, and we can figure the rest out later. And so that's definitely how we're operating at North Star. I see one, it looks like one final question for now is that some of the schools don't start till Labor Day, which is also true of Lainey, who goes to Chicago Public Schools. And is it, so is it a problem if they can't send all the technology school plans with, no, you can still send packages. You can send things up here. If those things are going to take place later, feel free to send things up as they come. We'll continue to take packages and Amazon deliveries. We've got a protocol for accepting and sanitizing packages before we distribute them to our campers that we will be continuing with and using that into the fall. Unless there are any other questions, we're going to wrap up here. Thank you guys for joining and for being interested in this this once in a lifetime idea opportunity when circumstances are presenting themselves. We really are looking forward to a successful program here this fall, and are really excited about it. I think it's worth reiterating. We have done we've put a ton of work in, and we have really fought hard to make sure to keep everyone safe and provide them with an amazing experience. And we've prepared and we have thought through as many details as we possibly can. But even this summer, we have to acknowledge that you know, with 70,000 new cases of COVID-19 every day in the U.S. and now over 5 million people having been diagnosed with COVID, this is still an evolving situation. And so no matter how much we do, this is a twofold approach that we're taking here. It's a twofold approach. And one is to do everything we can to keep it out and acknowledge that no matter what we do, we cannot guarantee that we can keep COVID out of camp. And so we're both going to do everything we can to keep it out, and we are going to work really hard to make sure that if it comes in, that we're going to limit the transmission, and we're going to keep it among a safe, young, healthy population, and so that we can handle this in the best way that we possibly can. But at the end of the day, our goal at camp for fall camp is the same as it always is, and that's to provide opportunities for social and emotional development, for fun, for connection into the lives of your boys, and to help them grow into great young men. And that's what we're hoping to do at fall camp just the same. So thank you guys for listening. Fire away any questions you guys have, call anytime, email us at the office, and we look forward to hopefully seeing all of your boys at fall camp. A great last question under the line here. How do you register? You register online, just like you register for camp. In the upper right-hand corner at northstarcamp.com, you click on register, and that'll take you to the registration. If you already have a Camp in Touch account, you can log in and click on camper application and choose to add the fall camp session. So hope you'll do that. As we always say, cheers up at the end of the meal here, but we think our new thing at fall camp will be cheers up and pencils down. So thanks. Have a great afternoon, and we hope to see you guys soon.